Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Dr. Gemma, and this is episode 180 of the newest series of the Cognitive Podcast. As I record this, it is Sunday evening, April 28th at 8:20 p.m. and I'm so glad to be back with you here. Boy, we've had an exciting week around the farm. Minerva has been the star, but there's been a lot of other fun stuff too. In the warm thanks department, Jay Knit Girl, who wrote a very thoughtful, lengthy email talking about bright line eating. And it was great because she wrote this right before I recorded the segment last week. I hadn't seen it when I recorded the segment talking about bright line eating. Jay Knit Girl is a nurse, and she's very serious about the BLE, and I don't blame her. And she reminds me that its founder is Susan Pierce Thompson. And she sent me a link to a podcast where a podcaster is interviewing Dr. Pierce Thompson. And it's very, very interesting, and I cannot recommend it enough. What I really like about bright line eating, it's not about keto, it's not about vegetarianism. It's just about fundamentals. You can eat sugar, you can eat flour if you want to lose weight, according to Dr. Pierce Thompson. And then you have to weigh your food, you have to track what you're eating, because you have to learn about your eating. That's really what she's pushing. And you don't snack. Because after all, if you learn to eat properly in your meal times, why would you snack? Now, there are moments I can understand that one rule being violated, because I used to be a long distance runner. And I can understand if you go out and you do a 10-mile run and you drink a protein drink, or if you drink Gatorade, too many artificial things, but something in that line. Sometimes if you're exhausted and you're dehydrated, yeah, you are going to drink things like caffeine and sugar. There are solutions to it. There are keto athletes who never touch that stuff. But on the whole, I think Dr. Pierce Thompson has nailed it. I think if you're not diabetic and you're following those 4 rules, odds are really high you're not going to go into prediabetes or diabetes. Why would that be? Well, first of all, when you stop eating flour and sugar, in America at least, you probably just knocked out about 95% of processed foods. So you're not eating other weird toxins that you shouldn't be eating, questionable ingredients, artificial junk. In other words, I knocked out flour, sugar, rice, and potatoes when I became diabetic. But if I was going to eat any of those 4 things, I'd rather it were a healthier rice, like a brown rice or a wild rice, and potatoes within moderation. Now, I just can't. I'm a carbohydrate addict. Was I always one? I'm not sure. I think about that a lot. The point is, though, if you're not diabetic, Brightline is an excellent, excellent idea for maintaining weight. And now I'm not going to do the whole diabetes tango again. You guys must be so sick of it by now. I'm a little tired of hearing myself when I review the podcasts. But anyway, I wanted to thank Jay Knit Girl because it was a very intelligent, very wonderful letter and very, very smart. And I'm so pleased to know that someone who's in nursing is following BLE. I do know that there's quite an underground following of it. It's interesting because the medical people aren't talking about it. And the ADA, the American Diabetes Association, they get all upset when you talk about banning any food. Well, I was on their diet when I got diabetes, so you can probably imagine how effective I think the ADA diet is. Oh, wait, I don't. Okay, so if you're struggling with eating, please go over and look at Brightline. And I do want to let you know, the link is in the show note for the podcast. I'm sure you can get all the details right from Dr. Pierce Thompson herself. But I do want to let you know that no matter which of these you do, if you go keto, if you go vegetarian, which I've done, I was vegan at one point, 3 years of it, or if you go to Bright Line Eating, there's one thing you can't avoid, and you just have to internalize this. You're going to have cravings because Americans are eating, on an average, 200 grams of sugar per day. You just don't need that. I'm going on 20 or less, usually far less, and I'm doing fine and my weight is dropping like a rock again. You don't need all this sugar. And I do think most of us are addicted. 61% of us now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And do the math, kids. If that's what's going on now, 20 years from now, you're going to be saying 61% of Americans are diabetic. Think about it. Most people get pre-diabetic. My doctor told me nothing. Said, oh, you're pre-diabetic. I said, what do I do about it? She goes, stop eating too much. What are you talking about? I was running marathons at the time. That was the most unhelpful advice. And I tried the American Diabetes Association diet. These things didn't work. I was vegetarian. They didn't work for me. So, you have to go through this. If you're eating too much carb, you're eating too much carb. You're making carb into fat at a high rate, storing it on your body. When your fat areas, get full, it's going to store on your liver and your pancreas, and that's where you get diabetes. So, no, guys, no. It's time to start paying attention to this. And the people who say, well, I can't do keto, it's too restrictive, blah, blah, blah. What you're really doing is screaming the sound of addiction. That's carbohydrate addiction. You can't take away my heroin. I can't live without my cigarettes. They keep me calm. I've got to gamble. That's what we all sound like, guys. We're just doing it through the carb filter, not the nicotine or the heroin or whatever filter. So thank you, Jay Nick Girl. I'm going to get off my soapbox now because I'm so tedious. I know when I do this. But it's really important because I'm thrilled to hear a medical professional talking about this in a very enlightened way. I was really, really pleased to get your message. Having said that, the Cognitive Fiber Retreat number 10, 2024, it is coming. All the information is in the link right there. Speaking of which, just so you know, we have classes now. And what else did we have? I was thinking this week, we got our vendors. Of course, we've got all our vendors. So that's all locked down. This is really beautiful. I would like to do a mini skein exchange if everybody's still interested in that. I would point you to, we have a lot of mini skein patterns in our references. The links are at the bottom of the page under resources. So if you're wondering what you do with mini skeins, I got the patterns, kids. And our mini skeins have always been in fingering, sock weight. If somebody wants to change that, just let me know. But that's that. I'm just about at the place where I'm going to start digging up Etsy people to write to so that the goodie bags will thrive. So that is ticking right along. I need some days off, really, to get down to the nitty-gritty of it. We do have the conference room in the hotel. And the other good news, I have enough points saved up on my Marriott account. So my room is paid for. So that's nice. So hopefully I will be able to drop the price a little bit this year, because my room doesn't have to be involved in it. And I'm going to see if I can negotiate to get a suite out of that room reservation. I may have a suite night reward coming up anyway, which is how I did it last year. But the idea is I want this to be as affordable and approachable as it can be. So really all we need is you. So please go to that information link right there near the top of the show notes. And I will come back to that a little bit in the calendar. Meanwhile, what is on my hooks and needles? Well, I am struggling with a lot of startitis because I have a lot of little mini projects that I'm doing for fun. So no, nothing is finished. That's the real thing. The stash toss right now, we are 13 in. No, we are 18 in. And I will talk about that, what those 5 represent. I think they're going to go away pretty quickly versus 34 out. But the good news there is I did go stash tossing this weekend because I've seen a lot of crochet that I want to do. And 2 of them, one is a fedora hat, which I believe if you go to my show notes in Ravelry, you will see it. It is from Make and Do Crew, Jess Copham. I think it's called the Clio Fedora. It's really adorable. It's a bit multi-craftual because she tells you how to put wire to stiffen the brim. I went through my stash and realized I wanted to make this out of a cotton yarn because it's a sun hat. She has it out of a polyester thing from Lion Brand. And I just looked at it and said, it's a beautiful hat, but that yarn has no appeal to me. Polyester in the California sun, my head's going to melt. I want something breathable. So I went over to Joann Fabrics and I picked up 4 skeins of basically a dishcloth cotton that I love, peaches and cream. I'm sorry, I picked up 5 skeins of it. And I have to hold it double because this hat isn't bulky. But anyway, there's going to be a lot of experimentation with this hat. Should be a very fast project. Boy, talk about famous last words. But I mean, this thing has the wire stiffening the brim. It has grommets in it and lacing around the top. I'm just really looking forward to messing around with this. So I did lose some control there. I haven't started it yet, but I am going to count those skeins in to my stash toss. At the same time, I want to do a thing called the September sweater, which is a lovely crochet experiment. You crochet 2 panels and you turn them sideways and fold them and sew the front seam and the back seam together, but in the front you leave part of it unsewn and you get a V-neck. This has got to be the world's most mindless sweater. Oh yeah, and then you, by the way, pick up and add the sleeves. This is about as mindless as a sweater is ever going to get. I'm really looking forward to this. I think this is kind of endlessly adaptable because it's V-neck. This could be a vest if you just do a little rim around those armholes. I just think this is one of those experiments worth doing. But I said no more yarn, and it's DK weight. And I went through the stash, and from, I believe, 2008 or 2009, I found a treasure trove of old DK weight, and it's gorgeous. And this is going to take 11, yes, 11 skeins of this stuff. So the stash toss should get pretty happy. This to me sounds like a summer project. Doing this in 2 panels, this is going to be relatively lightweight and kick through really quickly. But we're not there yet. That's not even there. Now, if you go to my Ravelry projects page, you will see that I started project pages for these things. But no, I haven't officially started them. When I do, I will go in and correct the project pages, but I don't want to lose sight of these. So when I don't want to lose sight of things, I don't even use my queue. I use my project page for that, in case you're wondering, if you go over there. So that's pretty exciting. The sock yarn cowl, no, haven't done anything on it, which is a little pathetic. But I've been winding all these little minis I had lying around in skeins. So I'm sort of collecting up more of my mini skeins, and that's going to be a summer project. I've got a whole bunch of things I want to make with those. Probably more of the sock yarn cowls, probably more wristers. We'll get there. Whew. In the meantime, as you can tell, I'm still in love with all these crochet experiments. On the crochet block experiments, the classic granny square body bag. This weekend, the job is do one little thing every weekend to make it progress. So this weekend, last weekend, you may remember I cut out the lining pieces. This weekend, I just sewed them together. You can see a picture of them fitted inside the purse. Really nice, really, really happy thing. So that's all that's going there. Next weekend, I fear I shall have to connect it all and maybe install the zipper. Or I can just chicken out and do the handle on the bag. We'll see. I did get the hardware for that, so I'm very excited about that. On my granny square cardigan, the lakeside cardigan, I now have 2 rows that I have sewed the individual blocks together, 2 rows of 9. So this weekend I clipped them together, and you can see a picture of me lying on it to measure it. It really should be 9 rows, well, 9 blocks for me, but I was doing the math and realized when I attach the back and the fronts, it's going to get really unbalanced if I only do 9 blocks across. So I thought, well, what's going to happen if I add a 10th block? Well, that'll balance the back panel and the 2 front panels. But I'm going to have these really long arms, which I didn't want. What I wanted was the 9 block back pieces to be 9 long. And then I was going to rib at the wrists. I probably still am going to rib at the wrists. I don't like the floppy wrists. I find in a cardigan that kind of thing gets in my way and gets a bit annoying. But what I'm going to do instead is I am going to get serious about ribbing up the front panels and around the back of the neck. Hopefully that's going to suck up a lot of that 10th block so that the part that will be at the back of my neck will be 2 blocks wide, which is a foot, which I really don't need. But if I fill that with ribbing and prop that up against my neck and pull that in a little bit, maybe I'll put buttons on the ribbing. This should work out nicely, but I do understand the diagrams now in the Lakeside cardigan. Now, how would you get around this? 5-inch squares. I mean, one way to manage this would be to take it down to a DK weight and a smaller hook. And you would come out with probably, I imagine, 4.5 or 5-inch granny squares. That would manage that very nicely. You'd have to experiment around with your squares, but hey, that's what this has been about, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So I did clip those rows together, you can see, and I tonight clipped on 2 extra squares to make them each 10. So the next move, I believe, during time between patients and lunches this week, since I'm really not eating lunches right now, I will probably sew on those 10th blocks on each row, and then I will begin to sew those big long seams together. Those of you who remember Blanket's Own Blanket will realize that to an old pro of sewing these things together, that's not at all intimidating to me. I'm really looking forward to it, to be honest. Lydia's pink socks, I'm on the 2nd sock. I'm well down the leg. I'm very close to inserting the heel. Nothing exciting there. I didn't touch Vestiary 24, which is getting a little sad if you ask me. I need to, though, but now we're just doing that sudden spring shift into warm weather, so I may not wear Vestiary 24 until next fall. At any rate, there's always the cool evenings here. And then there's the 2 amigurumi kits that I've been working with, the Woobles kit and the Wednesday kit. And I did hear a lot about Woobles. Once I told people I am going to do this, and I did the unboxing video. So in the show notes, you will find a link to the unboxing video. I hope you can download it. I'm not sure if that's going to work because my Instagram is private. I'm trying to find a way to load it to something else like YouTube. And I think I will keep working at that. But you can see a picture that on a Woobles webpage, they had a lovely picture of Felix the Fox, the kid I have, totally unboxed there. Well, I'm trying to think, do you see the little bits? You see most of the little bits. Yeah, no, you see them all. Yeah, you can see all the pieces there. I had a good question. Somebody said, but can they teach you to crochet left-handed? Yes. Yes, they do. It is not as highlighted as I would like it to be, but they do in their teaching videos talk about, and if you're left-handed, you'll be doing this. It's not as good as it could be on that. That's a rare weakness in the Woobles, but I think you'd be able to work it out, and I'll tell you why in a second. But there is a picture of a really nice layout of the unboxed Felix the Fox kit. I'm very fond of Felix, as you will see now. He and I have gotten close. Okay, so she has a hook in there. She is Justine TIU, two. At any rate, she's got a hook in there. They don't tell you the size of the hook. This annoys me. It's a 7mm. In other places, she talks about using a G hook, G as in girl. So on my measurement, a G and an H are, there's space between them, and the 7 is between them. But I do think it's important she talks about using a G. And she does have information about how you make Woobles by ordering stuff from their website and making your own. You don't have to keep buying the full kits. I appreciate this. The hook is labeled the Woobles. So that's one nice thing. If you keep the hook around and you buy their yarn, their supplies, you will have a hook you can use because that's their universal hook. And also I looked, are the Woobles on Ravelry? Yes, they were. And they're there. They're there under their names. So Felix is called, I believe, the Fox or Fox on Ravelry. And he is listed as a Wooble. And it says pattern has been withdrawn. But you can see it, which means you can enter it as a project on Ravelry, which is very nice for me. And so I started Felix today. I said, I really want to just get this done with, but I also wanted daylight. And that's because of working on the Wednesday project, which I'll come back to. So I wanted a bright day, and it's been raining for the last few weeks. We finally got a bright weekend. So I sat down today, and I worked on Felix, and I'm very impressed. I didn't expect to be this impressed. I am, in fact, awestruck. So here's how it went. I said, try to be a beginner, and I pulled out from the core of the biggest skein of yarn, and this is their nylon yarn, which they call Wooble's Easy Peasy yarn, because it's solid. It doesn't split in any way. So if you don't know how to crochet, this stuff is easy. I did manage to pierce it accidentally with stitch markers a few times, but even so. Okay, so you pull out the big skein. In the middle of it is nestled the part they've started for you. This is a magic ring with 6 single crochet stitches. In every Wooble's kit, I believe it is always the same. The Wooble's have this base shape, and I believe every Wooble is built on this kind of, orb. It's not quite a regular orb. You can see a picture of it in the show notes under my progress. There's a picture of Felix's package from left to right, and then what I've got of Felix so far, that basic body shape. And then next to it is the online videos that guide you through this. And this is amazing. She has videoed literally step by step how to crochet, how to start this project, how to hold your yarn. I mean, I've got the body done, and I've probably gone through something like 45 short videos. It is so broken down. It is amazing. You don't need a one-on-one teacher. You just play these videos. At the bottom of each page, there's a link to go forwards or backwards, so you can go to the previous vid or onto the next vid. I mean, she has really broken this down. It is astonishing. Now, some friend wrote to me and said, I learned to crochet with the Woobles, and their videos are amazing. And that's the most common remark I've heard about Woobles. Well, now I get it. Was this worth $30? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is private classes. And if you buy a kit, there are videos for each kit. Now, if you look at that screen in that picture, you can see she is not making Felix in that video. I think she's making her penguin, which was her first project ever, and she's really attached to it emotionally, and I don't blame her because it's making her rich right now. Okay, but the point is all the Woobles have the same base piece, this sort of sphere. And you can see the eyes, everything, it's the same. All the measurements are the same where you put the eyes, and I'm willing to bet where you put things like ears or noses or muzzles or mouths or whatever, tails. It is really impressive. She's really got this down, and it's very impressive. Also, in the unboxing vid, I'm wondering about what they did to seal that ring, because they give you the started ring. It's a magic ring, and it's got 6 single crochet stitches in it, and it is tight as a drum. You can't move it. Well, they knotted it. Duh. I should have figured that one out. The other thing they do is in the 3 stitches closest to the end point of the row, well, the beginning of the row, in each stitch they put a safety pin type crochet marker. So they give you 3 of them. I have no idea why you need 3 of them, but it is brilliant. One little minor thing, they give you one that is the exact color of your yarn, and they say use that one to mark the beginning of the row. No, don't do that. It blends right in with your yarn. Fortunately, there were 2 bright green ones, and what I did was I just kept one in my lap and one in the first stitch. And when I finished a row, I would put the free one into the first stitch of the next row and take out the one from the first stitch of the previous row and just drop it in my lap. This worked really nicely. And then there's the videos themselves. I've already just extolled the virtues. Look, I've been crocheting now for maybe about 15 years. I was learning stuff from this video. I have done circular shapes. I haven't done a lot of toys or animals, but I've done them. I was learning a lot. Looking at the body of Felix, he looks much better than my first attempts at the Wednesday doll in the Wednesday crochet project kit. This is really good. I'm deeply impressed. I feel much more confident about my amigurumi skills. Now, do they teach you everything you need? No, they don't. They don't teach you some fundamentals. Now there are kits above this level though. I'm on a beginner kit. So it is arguable that in later kits they may teach you fundamentals. What did I learn in this kit? I did not learn how to start an amigurumi project. And I think that's the biggest flaw. If I was left-handed, this kit, it would be a little bit of a struggle to establish how I do it. Not impossible, because they do give some left-handed tips. Okay, so those were two things where I went, this could be better. However, I got much better at the logic of amigurumi. How do you make this kind of sphere and make it look good? She taught me, well, she teaches how to hold your yarn, how to do a single crochet, how to do an increase single crochet, and how to do an invisible decrease, which I never knew. My decreases on this thing look great. She also taught me how to close the circle at the end very invisibly by weaving the yarn through in a specific way. I have to tell you, after 15 years of crocheting, I would have paid $30 for this, because there are these videos, they're extremely clear, extremely well done. How do I know this? I can't learn from videos. I can't learn from watching someone. Well, I learned today. So these are really impressive. Now, I find it lacking that I didn't learn double crochet, half double crochet, or trebles. I'm not going to use the British names because right now I'm tired and I can't remember them all. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to get those in the more advanced kits. Should I try one? I probably will. For a number of reasons, I'm toying with it, but you don't really have to. There are other ways to get some of the patterns. And that's because she has written a book called Wooble's Crochet Amigurumi for Every Occasion. You know what? If you don't know how to crochet, buy this book. Buy this book. She does it step by step like she does in the videos on the printed pages. And she does add extra skills like double crochet. She does talk more about left-handedness. You will see if you look at the cover that there are a few of her creatures that you can buy in kits. My favorites of the kits are not in this book. However, I was in Michael's this weekend. I saw the book. I did buy it because I wanted to do the kit. And I said, let's just see how far she goes with the book. I stood in Michael's and read it. And I was very, very impressed with it. So if you are looking for a beginner crochet book, Wooble's Crochet Amigurumi, really good choice. Those first 80 pages are pure beginner gold. So if you don't want to do it the video way and you're afraid to buy the kit, the book is also excellent. And I found it just on the stand at Michael's. And I went through it today and I was just blown away. It's very, very good for a beginner. It is as basic as I have ever seen a book get. Really, really good stuff. So what am I going to tell you? I unashamedly recommend the Woobles. If you want to learn to crochet, will you learn everything about crochet? Not even close. Will you become confident? Can you go back over and over? Yes. Now, the thing I have not tried getting off the website and going back with my password to see if it will work again. I'm kind of afraid to do that. I do want you to know, when you go to the website with your password, the first thing you see is a link that says download my pattern. So there it was, download Felix, and I did right away, all over the place. Downloads as a PDF. I immediately stuck them in my PDF collection on my Remarkable. The other thing I want you to know, that as you get through various videos, the videos for Felix are broken into sections, and the first section is about, it's just every step at a time. And there's got to be like 40 on it. And when you get to the end of it, it gives you this progress page. Great job. You made it through the body. And it's very smart. It even says things like, while you're stuffing it, tells you how to stuff appropriately, which I'm really impressed with. I had no idea there was a technique there. And it really does work. It's a really great idea. But she also says, don't forget to put aside stuffing for the tail, all this sort of thing. I'm very, very impressed. I can't say it enough. I'm so impressed with this. This is value for the money. Now, $30. All right, let's be honest. I would estimate the cost of Felix, including his hook. It's a good hook, by the way, ergonomic hook. I'm kind of impressed by that. But I would estimate Felix's cost, just for materials, maybe $5, if that much, $4. It's very small amounts. Oh, by the way, they give you extras of everything except the eyes and the sewing needle and stuff. But you get extra yarn, extra stuffing. Very nicely done there too. Why am I surprised? Very nice needle, carpet needle, metal, not cheap plastic. Really, really nice. All right. Felix would cost almost nothing to make. Of course, you'd be buying enough supplies just to buy the basic yarn. You could probably make 10 of Felix or 15 of Felix. The same if you buy safety eyes. I just bought 200 of them for $10 on Amazon. I mean, these things are cheap and available. Why is this kit worth it? Because try to think what you would pay for a class with all these supplies and a teacher who is really able to break this down so much. And the Woobles movies, they say, if you go through the whole thing, they say it's supposed to take from 3 to 8.5 hours. I don't know where you're going to get an 8.5 hour class with a teacher who's going to teach you in steps this small that you can look at over and over again. And that's where you're getting the value. So yeah, how many of these kits do you need? You don't. And the sad thing is, though, you're not going to get a lot of these patterns in anything but the kit, as far as I can tell. Over time, as the market gets saturated, and it's approaching it, because these things are everywhere. I'm amazed how many people are doing these. But as the market gets saturated, my guess is she will start releasing some of the popular patterns along with it. She's licensing with everybody. Warner Brothers for Harry Potter, the Charles Schultz estate for Peanuts. Actually, it's probably King Features syndicated, actually, for Peanuts. Charlie Brown and Snoopy. All these companies that are doing anime, I don't even know who half the characters are. It really is impressive what she's doing. So I hope she gets rich, and I hope she starts releasing more of the patterns. But that's the Woobles, and enormous praise. So then I went on to Wednesday, and unofficial Wednesday crochet. You can see my progress. I've done her legs and her lower body. What comes next? We do the upper body. Oh, I did her arms as well. You start with the arms, then you do the legs. The legs are very fiddly, trying to get the stripes on her stockings. I tossed one leg and started over. Now, the yarn in this is a cheap acrylic, and it's very low quality and rough and scratchy, but that's okay. If you look at it, you can see that you could buy this stuff. You could match it easily by going to Michael's or Joann's. You'd be able to match this stuff, no hesitation. So this is get through the pattern and see how it goes. Again, the woman who came up with the doll pattern says you can try this on larger hooks to get used to it. If you're not used to amigurumi, I would really recommend that. It is hard to be working on the tiny hook. This is an E hook. It is marked on its side as a 3.5 millimeter and does come in the kit. So I got trapped because I had a hard time understanding the structure of her shoes and then getting the stripes to work out on the legs. I didn't do the best job, but there you can see it. I may go back and do some, just basic back stitching in it to make those stripes look a little better. But I'm pretty confident. This was the hardest part. When you get the two legs done, if you've ever made a crocheted bear for the mother bear people, it's all the same stuff. The hardest part about this is how small the arms and legs are. But this has been kind of fun. You must do this in bright daylight because of the black yarn. And I tried lights around my neck and everything, sitting under an OT light. No, you have to do this in bright daylight. This yarn is hard to see. That was the bad news. The good news, in the stash toss, I found that I have a 20-gallon tub of acrylic yarn. I thought I'd given away all my acrylics. Nope. So I have two big skeins of Red Heart Black. I've got peach, I've got everything. So I'm very pleased about this because I'm thinking, yeah, I can experiment more with this doll and do better versions of it if I like it. But I am pretty pleased with it. But again, it makes me a little crazy because of the small size, even with my reading glasses. So I'm really just taking this in minor steps. But having the arms, the legs, and the lower body done, from this point, it doesn't take a lot from where I am. You go up and you do a few more rows to get the upper part, the bodice of her dress. And then I believe you're just going to go back to the middle of the lower body and you're going to crochet the skirt you'll sort of crochet it into the waist the way you would do a hem stitch in knitting. And then, just go around and around so that you kind of add the skirt onto her. That's not hard. I've done that on other projects. In other words, I think I've done the hardest parts here. It just takes a certain amount of patience to plod through this one. So this is the unofficial Wednesday crochet kit. This is from Chartwell Books. You can't get it on Amazon as far as I can tell, but you can get it from Chartwell Books website. There is also the pattern on Ravelry by this designer. I have the link in the show notes. So you can do this. It is fun. It is fiddly. It is very small needle work. But I got to say, I am enjoying it. I'm really glad I went back to the Woobles, though, to sort of hone some amigurumi skills. Nothing going in dizzy blondes. So let's go on to a strategy. Yes, I was bored last week listening to the last episode strategy because I did not know I'd gone on that long. I don't know why I did edit it. I did listen to it. But anyway, I really have to stop overthinking. I'm just done with that one. But it did bring up a very common thing in cognitive behavioral therapy, and that is the strategy of keeping a record. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make when they come to therapy. They don't want to record progress. I don't know why. And true Cog B, you actually draw up a record with the patient in your office. You may print it out for them from your computer. You just do a grid and say, across one side, here's the record, here's what I'm changing. And down the other side, day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. You say, when will you practice your changed behavior, etc. In other words, hardcore Cog B, a la Aaron Beck, you literally are handing people recording sheets. And yeah, I used to have a ton of them that they gave us in my trainings. I don't have them now. I just draw them up by hand when I need them because Excel is so easy. But one of the most important things people get wrong, they want to change their behavior, and yet they don't even know how much they're doing the behavior they don't like. How are you going to know if you've changed? In other words, this is about envisioning the finish line, and a lot of people are afraid to do that. They're really intimidated. I see the finish line, but I'm scared of it. Now, as a long-distance runner, I'm going to tell you, if you're going to get through a marathon, you envision the finish line, and I mean you're doing it at the starting line. You are at the starting line. It's like 6:30 in the morning. Everybody is freezing. You're waiting for the gun to go off. You're all jammed together, and you've taken off all your warm outer clothes and given them to the truck that's going to carry them to the finish line, and you're hoping you make it there to get them. And so you're standing there in your basically skivvies, freezing to death, and you're thinking, wow, X hours from now, in my case, very long time, like 6 or 7 hours from now, I'm going to be standing at a finish line, and the light will be different because it'll be mid-afternoon, and there'll be a nice person holding a whole big pile of medals, and they'll be waiting to put that one around my neck, and I'll be able to smell the cigarettes from the idiots smoking at the finish line, and there's going to be a beer tent. They'll give me orange slices. You are thinking of all of that in a marathon. That is a key aspect of sports psychology, that you must envision the successful finish. And yet people come to me all the time, and they don't. People who work out all the time, they still don't envision the finish. And so that's what keeping a record is. You not only know where you are now, so you record what you're doing right now, how often you're doing it, and how big or small you're doing it. And then you have goals, and you have mile markers. In other words, you don't do just one big goal. I want to lose 50 pounds. You say, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Then I'm going to lose 10 more. I'll be at 20 pounds, and so on. And you must record it. And so weight loss is an easy one. And well, actually, it's not. There's two ways to look at weight loss. One is how you're eating, and one is how you measure. And so, the coarse way is to do it by how you measure. You measure your weight, you measure your waist, you measure your butts, you measure how big you are, all in different parts on your body. I don't do this one. That's why I'm sounding kind of awkward. I instead go for the food. I measure, and this is bright line eating very much so, I measure what I'm eating. I record everything. I should record the water. I don't tend to because I'm not worried about that because I'll drink when I'm thirsty. But I record things like drinking my Ketorade, which is my electrolytes. I record coffee, tea. I don't drink soda anymore. I just decided that's all the artificial stuff my liver doesn't need. But I record everything. And yeah, I do weigh my food. And it's not hard. It takes basically measuring cups measuring spoons, and a kitchen scale, which I almost never need, and a really good app. I'm using MyFitnessPal, and yes, MyFitnessPal I prefer because if you enter a brand name like sparkling water Trader Joe's, it will give you Trader Joe's. If you scan a barcode from something you bought at the store, it will give you all the information associated with that barcode that is nutrition information. So the point is, though, you have to do a baseline. So, for example, with MyFitnessPal, I started out, here's a normal week, and I just logged all my food, and I saw, oh boy, this is what I'm doing wrong. You have to do a baseline. You have to see what you're doing. You have to face, what am I doing wrong? I did this with my glucose meter as well. That's a rough week. But you have to know where you started. It's like the people you see online. They take a before picture and they look ghastly. They're wearing, tight shorts and a running bra and all this. And then you see the after and they fit everything and they look great. You have to keep a record, and that's an act of faith. But you can't know how well you're doing if you don't know where you started and if you don't give yourself a chance to see change. More important, things go wrong, and the record is what's going to catch that. So when you're keeping a record, you realize, like, I have been going to bed faithfully 15 minutes earlier per month. So I started at midnight. Now I'm at 11:30, and I'm about to move to 11:15. I blew it for the first time in 3 months. I blew it. Was it last night? Friday night. I blew it. No, it was last night. I blew it. My sleep was a disaster. And I can compare it. I can say, see, this is what happens. And suddenly I realized this was the point of this whole exercise. One bad night, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is why I'm changing. This is horrible. So the strategy is very simple. You must keep a record. That means, first, when you're keeping the record, you have to break down what steps you're going to look at. Like in MyFitnessPal, I'm looking at what I eat at every meal, day by day. And I'm measuring carbs, calories. I don't care about calories, but it measures them. But it is interesting to see what I'm eating calorie-wise with such restricted carbs. It also tracks fat and protein. And I've already learned I'm not eating enough protein, but I'm doing fine on everything else. So we'll see how that goes. But you have to have a baseline. You have to know what you're doing before you can know you're doing better. Okay, and then you do the baseline. I did it for a week. And then you start changing incrementally. Like I said, okay, I'm going to lower my carbs to 20 carbs because that's keto. And that was really tough the first week. I just was like, what do I eat? What do I eat? Well, I'll tell you, I figured that out. So, you have to keep a record, and the record is really encouraging, and I can't wait to keep it. I get very excited about recording the stuff I'm doing, because when I'm doing well, that turns into a reward. Look at how well I'm doing. Look at that record. That is amazing. So you have to have a baseline. You have to have a set of goals for each aspect of your record, but you must keep a record over time. It is an old truism. It takes about 30 days to change a habit. I would agree with that, and there's a lot of stuff that's based on, because there's a lot of different aspects of your brain and your body and your physiology that come into changing habits. It really depends what you're changing. So, for example, when I got off flour, sugar, rice, and potatoes, that was an addiction. So that was horrible. I had 6 months of withdrawal. It was really tough. I had mood swings. It was really tough, and I had to keep telling myself I'm saving my own life. Well, changing my sleep hasn't been that hard. About a week into going to bed at 11:45, I started going to bed at 10:30 because my body said, oh, is this what you want? And I was getting so much reward from it. So it's kind of hard to say how long it takes to change a habit, but the old truth in my profession is about 30 days. That's all, guys. Oh, shoot. We're cycling along at 30 minutes a day on my bike desk, or lately I've taken to just walking outside or exercising, running errands, whatever. That's been great. I don't have my mileage here, but I'm in the mid 300s. And the fluffy books, the really good thing is I got the Quilter's Pre-Cut Companion. This is by the Missouri Star Quilt Company. I highly recommend this. It's $10. It's really tiny, but it is everything you wanted to know about making quilts out of those little tiny scrap pieces you can buy, end of the bolt, whatever. cut up at various fabric stores and Joann Fabrics. So you go in there and they have jelly rolls and they have strips and they have fat quarters, and Joann's was doing a sale on them. It wasn't much of a sale at all this weekend. I didn't actually pick up any. But every now and then I will see a jelly roll on sale online somewhere and I'll just fall for it and I'll buy it. Jelly rolls are great. They're 2.5-inch strips. They're great because you can use them to make binding for another quilt. Instead of cutting your own binding, it's like having pre-cut binding. You just sew the ends together. The Quilter's Pre-Cut Companion packs an enormous amount into its very tiny size. It is spiral bound, by the way, and it's written by people at that quilt company, Missouri Star, and they know what they're doing. It's great. It is just basically all these amazing tips and tricks to use those things. It answers questions like, do you pre-wash them? I usually do. She's not in favor of that. That kind of creeps me out, but I believe in pre-wash the heck out of everything. Yeah, you have to iron them. Yes, it's a pain in the neck. But ironing is ironing. If you quilt, you iron. You're just used to it. I just think, though, this is loaded with ideas. It's how to cut them up, how to make squares out of them. Yes, you can also go and find small acrylic templates for different pieces you can cut out of these smaller pieces. Look, as prices go up and we all have less money, this is going to be a real thing. Now, you can't go out and buy all this and then lay it out on the floor. I don't even have enough floor to lay things out on in a lot of cases. Well, I use the hardwood in the living room, much to everybody's chagrin, I think. But the point is, if you're living in an apartment, it can be really hard to have the space to quilt, to buy big hunks of fabric and cut them up and everything else. That's one thing. The other thing is, you can go in, if you have 10 spare bucks, and impulse buy a few of these and just collect them gradually. Anyway, the pre-cuts are a nice way. If you have leftover fabric and you don't really want to go invest in another big hunk, pre-cuts let you buy matching color-coordinated bits that you can use for binding or you can use for extra small blocks or trim. Pre-cuts are amazingly useful, but I really like this book. It's like having a really experienced quilter take me by the hand and show me all the clever ways I can use them. And yeah, I can always go buy some of those acrylic templates online to cut them instead of using, a rotary cutter and, quilter's edge and doing these big cuts and then cutting in other directions and all that, which is what I did with my first quilts back in the day. But right now I'm in space where I could do that, but it's really nice just to be able to lay out a few pre-cuts on a mat and just whack, whack, whack and do what you need without having a lot of extra fabric. So anyway, I want to recommend this book, The Quilter's Pre-Cut Companion. The link is in the show notes, and there's a nice picture of it. I picked it up from Amazon. Sometimes you will see it go by at Joann's or Michael's. Something I really like. Well, this is where I talk about the 1/16 inch wire for hat brims. This is actually galvanized steel cable, but it's very tiny. You buy this, you buy wire cutters. And I got this idea from the Clio Fedora by Jessica Copham. Link is in the show notes. This is the hat I'm talking about making, but I haven't started. It takes a lot of skills that I want to get, including installing grommets and using this wire for hat brims. She says you can actually buy milliner's wire. She says, why? This stuff is cheap. Yep. I bought 6 feet and it was, I think, 26 cents a foot. Yep. I'm really happy about this. I talked to the guy at Lowe's. He showed me to get wire cutters for it, which she also recommends in the pattern. The important thing here is that if you're going to do this kind of project, the problem with these things, with these kind of hats, is they get floppy and out of shape really fast. So this stiffens it. Everything you need to know about all this is in the pattern. What's great in the pattern, she gives you live links to exactly what you need from Home Depot or Lowe's. I was so impressed. I clicked on the link and then I got into the Lowe's app and it told me exactly where, which aisle, which bay this stuff was in. A Lowe's guy, Tanner, came over. He was really great. Cut it for me right there, helped me find the wire cutters, wrote down all the item numbers. He was wonderful. I was in and out of Lowe's on Saturday really quickly. Very, very satisfied. I said, I do wonder if you guys have leather lacing. He said, no, but Michael's is across the street. Yep, they had leather lacing, and Amazon is sending me the grommets. I believe they're coming this week. So something I really like, I like this galvanized wire for hat brims, and I'll keep you updated how it works. Put a lid on it. Well, two big things. One is cracked chicken, and the other is I got a Soda Stream. Thank you, beautiful Christina. First of all, the Soda Stream, I've been kicking around that idea anyway. One of my best friends, in fact, my maid of honor from my wedding, she told me about it last April when we met up in Disneyland in Anaheim at the convention center. And she said, you know, you really should give up all the sodas and just go to carbonated water. And she got us a lot of free carbonated water drinks from her company. And they were good. And I thought, she's really right. And now that I'm doing the Ketorade, I've gone over to Trader Joe's. But the plastic bottles are driving me nuts. I hate throwing more plastic bottles into landfills. And, you know, they have phony recycling numbers on them, but they don't recycle them here. And so it did annoy me. SodaStream is the industry standard, and it's very inexpensive. I got a really nice one, the Terra model, for like $80. Comes with everything you need in 3 carbonation canisters, which you can trade in at the Ace Hardware right here in town. So that's as easy as it's ever going to get. The only thing that annoys me, the bottles that come with it for you to carbonate your water into, plastic. Really wish they were making these in glass. I'm sure somebody is before you all write in and tell me. But I am going to finally stop tossing the plastic into the landfills. I'm deeply excited that the exchange of the carbonation cylinders is this easy and inexpensive. They will give you stuff when you buy these. They give you the mailers, so you can just put your carbonation things in the mailers and ship them back to the company, or you can go exchange them down at Ace Hardware. That's really nice. It means I have a source of flavors and also extra carbonation if we need it. I'm planning to use the heck out of this summer. I'm curious to carbonate all my iced tea. That's number one. And then there's cracked chicken. This is a keto standby that I'd heard about forever and never tried. Keto Snacks, the account on Instagram, the guy who runs that, I have mixed feelings about it because he says things are keto that are not, but even so, it is worth following if you know your keto. But he talked about cracked chicken, and he said it over and over again, and I've heard it so many times. Here it is. Take your slow cooker and put in it 1 big generous jar of an organic tomato sauce with no sweetener. I used Newman's Own. Then drop a block of cream cheese, not Neuchâtel, please, cream cheese, good old Philadelphia cream cheese, 8-ounce block, drop it in there. Put it on high, heat it up, and add any pieces of chicken that you can fit in there. Turn them over, make sure they get very coated. Put the lid on it, set it on high. I would say an hour to an hour and a half. I did a little over an hour, I think. Then set it on low and let it cook for a few hours. I can't tell you how good this is. It sounds like, why should this be so good? This is really great. This is cracked chicken. It looks ghastly in the picture in the show notes. You want to make this stuff. This is so easy. You could take 2 jars of the Newman's Own, 2 blocks of cream cheese. You could put enough chicken in there for a week, man. It goes great over rice or riced cauliflower or any kind of noodle you want, or actually over vegetables. Phenomenal stuff. Crack chicken. You make it in a crock pot. Would it work in an Instant Pot? I doubt it. Now it would, I guess, but I think it's going to come out much more watery. And yes, it'll cook faster. So if you had to do it in an emergency, an Instant Pot would work. I'm sure 10 minutes in an Instant Pot would be all you need. But when this is cooked slowly in a big slow cooker, what happens is it starts to reduce, that it does shed some steam and it gets thicker. And I can't tell you how good this was. This was addictive. On to the blather. Well, so I told you I did the stash toss, and so I found the stuff was so hilarious. I found, as I told you, the amazing Lorna Laces DK in this very variegated color for my September sweater, which I'm going to crochet. But also, the arms started to go out on a very old sweater of mine that I actually wear to bed, which is a bulky weight from Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes. And I can't remember the name of the sweater, but you can look it up on my website. Anyway, I love these. I have 2 of them. This one came out a little short, so I use it to sleep in, and the arms started going out. I said, oh, I guess I have to write the knit picks to get a skein of this yarn. No, I had it in the stash. So that went onto my huge now mending pile. Meanwhile, I didn't realize I had acrylic yarn, and I was really getting a craving to do Mother Bear crocheted bears. I can't believe how much acrylic I've got. I may have to invest in 1 or 2 skeins of a brown. I do have the black for the bear's head and feet, but I'm just rolling in acrylic. So that's nice. I'm hoping to get back to making Mother Bears once more. And then I have also a ton of mending projects that I'm sewing to wear what I love. Why do I have a ton of these? Well, in the weight loss and fasting, I'm down about 17 pounds now in, I think, 7 weeks now. And I stopped the plateau. I was stuck at 170 for quite a while. And now I'm in the 160s. And so that feels excellent. What I did to do that was I had a week of eating keto, but eating more food instead of fasting. I felt lousy all that week. I really feel much better fasting. My body wants this. And of course, when I got off that and started fasting and all that, my glucose and ketones went into a great place. So I am feeling energized and terrific. So that's really nice. Also, I want to point out there was a study published in Medscape this week. Stanford researcher did a very small population preliminary study, but showed that keto is good for mental health. And this is really nice because this has been anecdotal in the keto community for at least 6 years, as long as I've been there. And it's amazing it's taken this long for someone to actually regularize it and do a study that can be validated. But people with bipolar have reported sharp decrease in symptoms. Part of the study that he does point out, the researcher, he points out in good faith, is he says, everybody lost weight. Everybody's health improved. And he says, is that changing your mental health, or is that just anybody who loses weight is going to feel good, but that doesn't mean you're cured of whatever? And he points out, who cares? That if that's what it takes, if being in a healthy body makes you feel good, improves your mental health, doesn't that answer the question if keto is effective that way? But still, he leaves very eloquent room for study of the idea that this is doing more than just giving people a temporary high because they've lost weight, that it actually may be affecting organic symptoms. So that made me feel really good. Not much else. Project G, we got rid of another box of garbage, is all I can say. And Project C is good. Project Pup Date. Captain is going to the vet. My husband is taking her. In the Green Fingers report, you may remember the amazing Gloria, our morning glory plant. She was flowering again and everything. I think she croaked. We don't know why. So she may be history. Meanwhile, under all of this, you can see our community resources, including, as I mentioned earlier, the list of patterns I like and links to skills and techniques and resources. These are all the things that I talk about in the podcast, including books I like, patterns I like, techniques and skills I like, and things that I buy to support my knitting, like name tags and whatnot. Those are all in those links. On the calendar, the usual suspects, the Santa Clarita Valley stitching groups that are on Facebook. You can look them up there in the notes. And the Free Craft Exchange. Right now, we haven't been doing much, but I'm hoping to get back into that. CFR 10 will be at the Courtyard by Marriott in Valencia on September 28th, 2024. And again, here's another place where you can click on information and get to it. Romeo, my vacation is looking like December 21st through December 29th, but we'll see if I go for the 30th and the 31st. And then Minerva's moment of glory. Minerva gets the last word. She is the slayer of mice. She killed at least 4 of them in a 72-hour period, and she got so excited that she began hanging out by the garage door screaming because she wants to be let out there to hunt more. And we discovered this week she has an agenda. We thought she wasn't killing the mice. We thought she didn't know how. We thought at one point Captain was mouthing them to death because the mice were covered in saliva. This week, I found out all those theories are wrong. Minerva is convinced that I'm starving. She's bringing them to me. And she's not killing them. She's offering them to me. And when I don't kill them, as she demonstrated this week, she kills them. Now, she dropped one in my study between my husband and I while we were chatting on my lunch break. Dropped it right between us and walked away and refused to look at it. And that's where I understood that she's trying to get me to hunt. Those of you who will remember our late lamented Fearless the Wonder Cat tried the same thing. When she believed she was dying, Fearless started trying to teach me to hunt. And it got pretty fearsome. Well, Minerva's taken over the job. I swear it is the spirit of Fearless has come back and possessed Minerva. She's perfectly aware how to kill mice. And then the real horror moment, she brought one in the bedroom, was covered in saliva. She's carrying them around in her mouth for fun. Those poor mice. And she carries them around and screams. And then when I see her, I've realized there's a certain way she looks that means her mouth is full of mouse. Anyway, she dropped a dead one on the floor at my feet. I almost stepped on it. It's like a horror movie around here sometimes. And anyway, I said, oh, let me get a dustpan and brush. I came back, no mouse. But Minerva had, well, a mouthful. And she was going crunch, crunch, crunch. Skin, bones, tail, feet, you name it, she was eating it all. I'm afraid I nearly lost my cookies. So now when she brings me one, I rush to get a dustpan, but I carry her with me so she can't eat the thing. I hope she knows I'm eating it. I'm not. Actually, I'm throwing it out into the front yard for our raven mated pair, Hugin and, I keep getting the other one's name wrong. I'm going to say Thunen, but that's not right. But anyway, those are the ravens of Odin, of course, and we have them in the front yard. So I'm throwing them in the front yard because I like the raven gang and I want to keep them around. But Minerva is now the proper heiress of our Fearless, and she is Minerva the Slayer, the Fearsome. And there's a picture of her lying there with her brush tail over her nose, looking especially dangerous. And of course, the cartoon by the late, great B. Kleban, who drew a lot of cat cartoons, and this is of course the cat singing the blues about eating mice. So, having said all that, had a lot of stuff this week. Thank you for hanging in there. I hope you're getting your nickels worth. And in the meantime, everybody remember, we are communal. We do better when we help the community. That protects the individuals just as well. And when we protect each other, everybody's happy. So everybody, please stay safe, take care of each other, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.